east of 27th and Pineland. Let them fix you a plate.
Wake up, Lincoln.
Come on, it's 6 o'clock. Rise and shine, rise and shine.
It's time for Early Break with Sip and Jake, brought to you by Gaina Trucking. Live from the Coppel Chevrolet GMC studios in the heart of Lincoln, America. Here's 93.7 The Ticket's Jake Sorensen.
Did seem kind of meh.
And Steve Sipple.
Surprisingly good.
This is Early Break with Sip and Jake, sponsored by Gaina Trucking.
Good morning. Happy Tuesday. This is Early Break. No Sips, no Jake Sorensen, I should say. No Steve Sipple either. Nick Sainert with you, joined by Jake Bachoven this morning. Good morning, Bach.
Oh, good morning. How are you doing?
Not too bad. We got some exciting news that as of about 20 minutes ago, the Huskers have arrived in Dublin. And so the Huskers are there. They're in Dublin, and they are ready to get going. Like, Bach, I'm going to be honest with you. We're going to dissect this the entire show. Obviously, it's going to be a heavy Northwestern look, kind of thoughts on the game, concerns, I suppose. I want to hear from you guys all show long. 402-464-5685, the Honda of Lincoln hotline, the Starter Heyman text line, both those open for you guys, as well as the Starter Heyman Jewelers video stream, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. Once again, want to hear from you guys the entire show today. It'll be a full show ahead. Once again, the Huskers have arrived in Dublin. So they had a little bit of flight trouble last night. They were supposed to leave Omaha at 8 p.m. sharp. And Scott Frost kind of talked to us about that earlier this week and said that, I guess on Sunday, he was telling us that they're going to take off at 8, and then about an hour after takeoff, they're going to completely black out the plane, force the guys to fall asleep, because they've been talking to a lot of guys about, like experts, I should say, about the best ways to acclimate your body to Dublin time or to a new time zone the quickest. And so they were kind of walking us through their itinerary. And during the break, I'll try to find the audio quote so I can play it for you guys. But he said something along the lines of an hour after the takeoff, they're going to black out the plane, force the guys to fall asleep, and then wake up, obviously, in Dublin, go work out, and then dinner, and then they're going to obviously go back to sleep, even if they're not going to be tired, right? Because their sleep schedule is going to be completely off, force the guys to fall asleep again as well after some downtime, and then bam, right, as Wednesday morning comes around, they're on Dublin time, and they're ready to go. So feels like that's probably the best they feel, I should say, the staff, this program feels like that's going to be the easiest and best option to adjust or acclimate their bodies and their sleeping schedules to Dublin time is with that kind of schedule. We're supposed to hear from Scott Frost tomorrow, so we'll hear from the head coach. I guess I should actually look at the itinerary before I say that. So we'll hear from coordinators and some of the players tomorrow after practice in Dublin. So there'll be stories coming out of Dublin. But once again, 402-464-5685. They had a little bit of trouble flying out of Omaha. Supposed to take off at 8 p.m. last night. They were going to get there at 10:07 a.m. Dublin time. Their flight ended up being delayed about an hour and 10 minutes, Bach. So they didn't get out of Omaha till about 9:10 p.m. and they just landed at about 5:15, a little before 5:15 a.m. Central time here, which is about 11 a.m. Dublin time. So Huskers are there, and now it's lock-in time. Like, Buck, I'm curious how Husker fans feel like they're going to juggle this, because we always talk about Nebraska showing up in big games and how bad they need to show up in big games. And when you go over to overseas, across the pond, if you will, and to Ireland, there's a part of you, I don't know, as a Husker fan, that because of the recent results, you're a little reserved and concerned about how this team shows up or how this team prepares. But I don't know how where we're at with that level of concern going into this game.
I mean, I think it's there. I think the week 0 loss last year is going to continue to kind of haunt you until you redeem it, and I think this is where you redeem it. I think it's kind of cool. It's definitely got a bowl game feel to it, and maybe even more so. Like it's completely different. It's not like you're going to Shreveport or something. You're over there in Ireland, so it's almost like you made a really good bowl, and it's kind of odd because you're having 2, 3, and 9 teams match up for conference play. In a different country, so it's hard to even compare it to something, but to me it does have a bowl game feel to it, and I think that's kind of nice. And it's strange because you start the year with a bowl game after it having not made a bowl game for 5 years. Have you earned it or all this? I mean, you can kind of debate all that stuff, but I think this has a chance to kind of jumpstart the program. It's a kind of a silly thought, but if this is the year that they take off, you're going to look back at this and say, hey, maybe it started with a little bit of Irish luck.
Well, and here's the thing. This game is a super cool opportunity, and I found the quote from Scott Frost saying, kind of describing what the first 24 hours will be like for them over in Dublin. So we'll play that here in a moment. But once again, like, this game has been in the works for 3 years. This game was supposed to take place multiple years ago, and because of obviously circumstances and things happening out of your control, here we are in 2022, and possibly one of the more pressure-packed seasons that Nebraska's program has had in the last, 10, 15 years, I suppose. I mean, maybe some of those Bo Pelini years or even the Callahan years were a little more pressure-filled. But now you're sitting here going, well, now you got to throw in this Ireland trip with it. And don't forget, Bach, Scott Frost at some point this season still has to serve a 5-day suspension.
That's right.
For the NCAA violations.
Can you do that in the bye week?
So, I'm guessing so.
I
mean, so you're probably going to do it in the bye week, which Nebraska's first bye week is September 24th. So maybe we hear something about that. Maybe we don't, and it just kind of gets swept under the rug, which I think will probably be fine. Once again, 402-464-5685, the Honda of Lincoln hotline. The Starter Heyman text line, Jake Sorensen and Steve Sipple are both across the pond. So Nick Sandert and Jake Bachhoven hanging out with you guys today, and we'll be here the rest of the week as well. So I want to hear your thoughts, how we're feeling on the game. Are we juiced up? All that good stuff. Here's Scott Frost on what their first 24 hours in Ireland will be like.
We've had more conversations than I can remember about this and the right way to do it. And I don't think if you've traveled to Europe, I don't think there's a perfect way to do it. You're not going to feel perfect when you get over there. Some of the conversations with NFL teams that have gone over and played in London have been important. Our NAPL lab here and the expertise there has been really valuable for us too. So I want to give them a shout out. Flying overnight, I think the priority is making sure guys try to get to sleep on the plane. So we're going to black it out about an hour after takeoff and try to get as much as we can. And then land and see how long everything takes. But we're taking them through customs and going straight to the stadium to get a little workout, try to knock some rust off, then headed to the hotel, give them a little downtime. Then we have dinner and a little cultural thing, and we're going to try to get them back to sleep. And the goal is to try to make sure when they wake up on Wednesday, they've had a really good night's sleep on Tuesday night, and they're ready to kind of pick up where we left off here.
So there you go. So sounds like right now the Huskers, as they're making their way through the Dublin airport, you can kind of follow along on Twitter and things like that, making their way through the Dublin airport. And like Scott Frost said, they'll go right to Aviva Stadium. I believe it's Aviva. Mm-hmm. Go right to Aviva Stadium, get a quick workout in and get the guys a little tired and just kind of knock some rust off, as Scott Frost put it, and then get to the hotel, spend some downtime, hang out with the guys, and then dinner, and then he's, as Scott Frost put it, a cultural thing, which is funny because I always wonder, like if you're a coach in this situation and you're going over to Ireland, I wonder if there's a part of you that just wants to play the football game. Like, I wonder if there's a part of you where it's cool that we're in Ireland and everything, but let's just play the football game. That's what we're here to do.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think you want to take advantage and get some team bonding. And I mean, I think it's a cool opportunity, obviously, that most people aren't starting with. I'm really interested in kind of next week, right? I mean, I know that the opponent steps down quite a bit, but coming off of this, all this travel, for a lot of these guys, first time out of the country, obviously first time in Europe for most of them. It's a lot. I mean, it's a life experience.
Yeah.
And then you just kind of come back to Lincoln and have to, get back to the normal schedule and you're in season. And it's strange. I mean, it's going to be strange for all of us. I suppose we did it last year, but I still kind of find it odd for Nebraska to kind of open up the season. I'm used to like watching some week 0 games and then saying, college football is here, Nebraska football is next week. This is awesome.
Yeah.
When Nebraska started, it's just kind of like, it's a shock to the system. It's like college football is here. I mean, Nebraska football is here. I haven't even watched any college football to warm me up.
It is the top game this week.
Oh yeah.
And here's the thing. Like I said this yesterday, Bach, and I guess we can kind of dive into this subject as well. One of the parallels between, we're always talking about how things are different this season, going into this season, right? We always talk about how new coaches, new personnel, a lot of things are different, and that's absolutely accurate. And I think there's a lot of excitement because of that. One of the biggest parallels, as I was watching the Illinois game yesterday, or 2 days ago now, is that for the second year in a row, on the opening day of college football, all eyes across the country, and now right now the world, this year, with you being in Ireland, every eyeball is going to be on you. And that's one of the parallels. And last year, when Nebraska played Illinois, they kind of pee down their leg.
Yeah.
And so when that happens, and that's not, I mean, I'm not sugarcoating it, and that's being just realistic. They pee down their leg.
They kind of eliminated themselves from the Big Ten West race immediately.
Right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. So when you're sitting here and thinking, all right, what are some of the parallels between 2021 week 0 and 2022 week 0? Then you're sitting here going, maybe there's a couple more than we thought before. As Bach goes and grabs a phone call. Once again, you guys can get in touch with the show, 402-464-5685. Gus is out today as well, so Bach and I are just kind of hanging out in the studio by ourselves. But once again, some of the parallels, just that all the eyes are going to be on you. So what kind of product are you going to show when it comes game time this Saturday in Dublin? And so it's truly going to be interesting. It's almost one of those things where how does Nebraska respond? But once again, if you're just now joining us, Nebraska has officially arrived in Dublin. And I think the guys are juiced up. Like, talking to some of the players over the weekend at press conferences, guys are juiced up. Guys are ready to go, and they're going to be able to enjoy this trip. But when it's time to lock in, they need to be able to lock in, because there's a lot, obviously, for you guys know this, a lot of pressure riding on this season, and for everybody, for coaches, for staff members, for players as well, especially a guy like Casey Thompson, who comes here, has something to prove, and is looking for, some help in maybe raising his NBA draft stock. NFL draft stock, not NBA draft stock. Once again, 402-464-5685. Let's go to the Honda of Lincoln hotline, where we're joined with Bob. Bob, happy Tuesday. What's on your mind, man?
Hey, hi guys. It's only 12:15 in the afternoon there, so
yep.
I think they're going to be fine. Case is talking about having a little chip on his shoulder, about way things went off in Texas, and you got a few of these players that came in that maybe got a chip on their shoulder a little bit, which is good. Players are talking about maybe being a little too tight last year. They want to be loose, but they also want to there's a fine line about that in business type, when it's time to practice, when it's time to, to focus on in. You got new coaches. I think they're going to be fine. I just, I'm anxious for the game. I just want to see Nebraska come out and not only hit them, but just keep on hitting them, and just not let up all game long. And, when they get back, I think they'll be fine this year. They're going to be fine. I'm not worried about them. Like I said, I'm not changing my expectations on them.
Yeah.
I'm just getting ready to go. I'm just anxious for the game and get this season underway.
Thanks, Bob. Appreciate the call. And I think that, like I've said it before multiple times on the air, Bach. I have there's a quiet confidence surrounding this program. whether you're talking about coaches or whether you're talking about players, there just seems to be a quiet confidence surrounding this program, which is something that it hasn't necessarily been a quiet confidence. They've been confident in years past, but it hasn't necessarily been quiet. And I always say this, I mean, actions, especially in this situation right now when you're 15 and 29, actions speak a lot louder and carry a lot more weight than words do. And they're not saying a whole lot. We're not hearing over and over about how great practices were or how great this specific position room is doing. We're not hearing about that. It's more of, this is how we're operating. A lot about accountability, especially if you talk to the offense. They've had some situations and some days where they've really struggled, but they've been at the front of that. They've been saying, we had a bad day today. The defense kicked our butts. Mickey Joseph coming out and literally calling out guys multiple times saying, I don't have a top 6 yet. Mickey Joseph, who's the most consistent? Me. Mickey Joseph, it just seems like there's guys in positions that are just no BS guys. And for the first time in, I guess, under Scott Frost, I guess that's the way we need to look at it. For the first time under Scott Frost, I think you have that across the board. And so I feel like there's a big reason to be excited about and not worried. I think not concerned too much about being able to lock in. Scott Frost kind of talked a little bit about that on Sunday. You got to enjoy the trip, but lock in. Vince from Napa, we'll get to you here in a moment, so sit tight. Once again, want to hear from you guys, 402-464-5685. Here's Scott Frost on Sunday.
No, we've talked to a lot of people. I don't know if I can point to one thing, but we need to be able to, in general, lock in when we need to lock in. I think it's a mistake to go over there and have the guys on football 24/7. That's when you do get tight. So we're going to try to enjoy the people, the country, and when it's time to focus on what we need to focus on, I want the guys to be sharp and focused. I've met a lot of Irish people in my life, and they're awesome to be around. I haven't met all of them, obviously. There's a lot. But the ones I've met have been funny and friendly. And, I said on the radio I think the people of Nebraska and from what I know, the people of Ireland, I think it's going to be a fun mix. And I'm excited for the fans going over there as well.
Okay, one more time.
I've met a lot of Irish people in my life, and they're awesome to be around.
Okay, that's all I needed to know.
I haven't met all of them.
I haven't met all of them.
Speak for everybody.
He's like, I've met a lot of them, but I not all of them.
Yeah.
All right, let's go back to the phone lines, 402-464-5685, the Honda of Lincoln hotline. Vince from Napa, California. Vince, good morning. What's on your mind, man?
Good morning, fellas. How are you?
Fantastic. We're 4 days out, Vince.
Yes, indeed. The time keeps getting closer, and as the time keeps getting closer, I mean, just a couple of things. Just a couple things that I want to bring up, and I agree with something that you said, Bach, is that hopefully by the fact that this game is across the pond. I mean, it kind of does have a sort of pseudo bowl feeling to it, and hopefully that is something that kickstarts this team, but another thing, and also too, now that they're there, obviously let's don't kid ourselves. We're going there to win a football game, but I also think as well that, you also want to give them time to enjoy it initially. And then, and I think, and then when it's time to lock in, you lock in, but I've said this before with Jake and Chip. I think even though, we all know it's at stake as far as, needing to produce this season, but I think it's about understanding the difference between being tense and intense. Because, and this is kind of where I hope the transfers come in, is because, and I've said this throughout the off season, I think now is probably, the time couldn't be better to have, a lot of transfers in, because they weren't here for the prior years of losing. So that way, I'm hoping they play with a little bit of a looseness, that hopefully guys see. It's like, okay, guys, this is a big game, this is a big moment, but we got this. But I'll tell you what I want to see most of all, not just this week, but throughout the season.
All right.
And the high fastball's coming, guys.
Here we go.
because what's driven me nuts in past years is when I hear Coach Frost say, "Oh, we need a break, we need a break, we need a break."
Mm-hmm.
Because when you have that approach, it just comes off like, okay, we're just waiting for the other team to make a mistake. We need that to happen to get our momentum. You know what I say, fellas? The hell with that. You create your momentum.
There you go.
And you know what that also means? You either feel pressure or you apply pressure. It's time to start applying pressure for 60 minutes.
There we go.
Thank you, Vince. God,
Love to
I
hear it.
always can rely on Vince. Once again, 402-464-5685. He called in yesterday. He said, "Open up a can of kick ass."
There you go.
And I said, "This is exactly what I need for my
He's
Monday."
ready for game week.
Here's another thing that kind of interesting is he made a good point, and we'll get to a text here in a second. He made a really good point about transfers coming in. They haven't been around for the losing. And it's always interesting when you insert new transfers into a program, how they're going to mesh and gel. And we've heard obviously good things. They're not going to tell us if it's going poorly, obviously, but they seem to be excited and pleased with how the new guys have meshed with the old guys. The Casey Thompsons have meshed with the offensive units, and O'Shawn with the defensive units and things like that. Obviously, those are the two big names. Obviously, Tommy Hill is going to be playing, sounds like I should say, going to be playing a big role in that secondary, and he's a new guy from Arizona State. So when you add these guys that have chips on their shoulder, because most of the time when they're transferring in, things did not go well at their previous stop, they have something to prove. And they haven't been around for the losing. They haven't been around for the 15-29. So maybe that's a thing on like Casey Thompson specifically, where once again, it's just a fresh start.
Yeah, I mean, and you could tell. I mean, it was so obvious by the end of last year when you watch the Iowa pump block. Is this here we go again feeling on the sideline where it all unravels and Nebraska knows they can't win in the crunch.
Yeah.
That seemed to be an identity of last year's team. They need to wipe that. And with all these new coaches, all these new players, you feel like that's is going to be easier done. But there's still a majority of guys that were here on this team last year. So it is going to have to be something they've just got to go out there and get a win when it's a close game against a meaningful opponent. And, there's nothing that can replicate doing that. They've got to get it done, and they just can't get into this this cycle that they got into last year of fearing their own, fearing of tripping over their own feet, because eventually they would as well. So it's like Vince was saying, they got to create their own look, got to get more turnovers. Only 13 total last year, 3 fumble recoveries throughout the year. That's not very much. Obviously, as the defense still was a good unit, but you just need to get some more of those. Obviously, limit the turnovers on the offensive side of the ball. I hope and I think that we, with this new identity, with all the changes made, if it's fourth quarter and it's a close game, I don't think you're going to see them wet the bed. I think that, at least I'm going to give them the fresh slate. And I suppose if they do, then you start to worry that some of that stuff is stuck around and maybe it's, the guy up top rather than whatever else was kind of, contributing to that last year. But this is great. I mean, this game is huge. And I know Northwestern was bad last year. And I understand both teams are 3-9, but they got bludgeoned by everybody they played except for Iowa.
They were a different type of 3-9.
Right. They were awful, to be quite honest. And, there's all that, the take of, Pat Fitzgerald can turn his team around and we've seen it in the past and all that. And I see that too. For what it's worth, he's done that. When he's done that in the past, it's been with Mike Hankwitz, his longtime defensive coordinator, first-time defensive coordinator last year, Jim O'Neill. Things did not go well, so they're going to need a complete turnaround there. I don't know. Sometimes I don't think we look at the assistants enough in that. I just think that they're, it's similar to last year. I think if last year would have said in week 0, we all kind of put all the pressure in the game, kind of thinking, yeah, they got to win this one because if they lose, I mean, they could go 3-9. And it happened. I think you're kind of thinking of a similar thing this year. We all got our optimism. We all got a fresh start. The Kool-Aid is flowing. But if you just kind of think if they lose this game, give me your season win projection. Then it's not pretty. So they need to get off on the right foot, and I think that they're prepared to do so. I think in Ireland too. I think there's going to be this feeling of like once the game time hits, it's got to like peak waiting for game time, because you're going to kind of get that feeling of like what we've done this last half a week or whatever. It's all building for this. This is what we're here for.
Well, like Scott Frost has said, and multiple guys have said, the entire time has been that they need to lock in when the lights come on, I guess, in Dublin. So once again, 402-464-5685, the Honda of Lincoln hotline, the Starter Heyman text line. I want to hear from you guys the entire show. Sandman asked on this on the text line, and I was going to get to this either way. He wants to know, do we know or care what Northwestern's travel plans are? Are they in Ireland already? So Northwestern, I believe, won't get into Dublin until Wednesday, and then they'll go through their normal kind of plans Wednesday and Thursday. And it's really weird. It feels like when you talk about team preparation, it feels like Nebraska is preparing for this a lot more thorough than Northwestern. Now, I want to be cautious in that, because that's not to say that Northwestern's not preparing or not getting ready, right? Because Pat Fitzgerald said this earlier this week, said something along the lines of, even after their game in Dublin on Saturday, they're actually going to stick around in Dublin a little bit longer and have a dinner in Dublin with about 600 people. And Fitzgerald himself has 60 family members attending the game. 60 family members with Pat Fitzgerald attending the game in Ireland. And so Northwestern, it says Northwestern will have a team dinner Wednesday and see a show in Dublin. On Thursday, they will see some sights on a double-decker bus, visit the Guinness Storehouse, and then have dinner there. And then Friday, they have a pep rally planned. And so then Saturday, obviously, they play the game. So Nebraska's schedule, I can walk you through it. They gave it to us in the media guide. Just their tentative itinerary. I don't know what kind of like cultural things, once again, as Scott Frost put it, where they're going to go. But Wednesday afternoon practice, we'll talk to coordinators and selected players on Wednesday. Thursday, it'll be Coach Frost talking. They'll practice in the morning on Friday, then have a pep rally starting at 4:30 p.m. Ireland time. So what would that be? 10:30 a.m. Central Time here in Lincoln. And then Saturday, it's game day. They play at 11:30 a.m. Central Time on Fox. The two broadcasters, if you're interested in that for Fox Sports, Jason Benetti and Brock Hurd. So no Gus Johnson or Joel Klatt going to Ireland for him. Let's go back to the hotline before we get a break. Let's go to Chris. Chris, good morning. How's your Tuesday going so far?
Well, I'm headed for the Baldwin shop, Nick.
All right.
And good morning, Jake. Good to hear your voice. Welcome to the Insomniac Hour here, you guys. I don't know how much of an adjustment that is for you guys.
Oh yeah, we're all going through adjustments right now. It feels like yeah. It's not too bad. We're not flying to another country, so we didn't have to sit on a plane for 9 or 10 hours over the last 2 days.
There you go, guys. Now you guys, Jake, Nick, I'm going to throw a little cold water on your game here. You know, of course, there's a lot of Nebraska fans looking forward to this game. The Northwestern fans too, although I hear Northwestern didn't quite have the crowd over there that not going to have the crowd that Nebraska has, but sounds like half of them are going to be Pat Fitzgerald fans.
I think so. Think so. They're going to have about 120 fans.
But what I want to say, you guys, is a lot of people across the country are probably watching this because it's college football.
Exactly.
Now, are they as enthused across the country, people that aren't Nebraska fans, as they are going to be for, say, Notre Dame at Ohio State next week? Probably not. Let's face it, you guys. This is two teams that were 3-9 last year. So, two teams that are going to try to get back on track. As far as the game itself goes, I think Nebraska, from what we hear from fall camp, we don't know anything really about this team, only what we hear coming out of the camp. Jake, I'm like you. If we can come out, establish the run, beat this team physically like we did last year. I don't expect it to be like it was last year, but I do expect us to win this game. Northwestern, is not a great team. They're not even a good team, I don't think. So I think Nebraska ought to win this game, take care of business. And guys, it's just a lot of stuff needs to happen this year. I'm a little concerned about our offensive line from what I hear, but we're going to find out. What's going to happen here in the next few weeks up to this Oklahoma game. I think a lot of people, guys across the country, are curious because of the position Scott Frost is in. I think that's what a lot of people across the country are curious about Nebraska. But guys, we're just a few days away, and I hope we can get a win over there. And I'm going to hang up, and we're all listening up there at the Baldwin Shop to you guys.
Appreciate it. Say hello to everybody at the Baldwin Shop for us. That's Chris. Thanks, Chris. I'm really fascinated, Bach, about the entirety, like Chris was saying. And we'll get to kind of concerns of and what Nebraska needs to do to win this game, right? Because I think there is a way that we can sit here. Sometimes you go into a game, you don't necessarily know what Nebraska's going to have to do to win the game. But I feel like there's a formula here that we're pretty confident if Nebraska can execute properly, they're going to walk away with a win out of Ireland and come back and then face, I don't want to say two cakewalks, but two lower level programs in North Dakota and Georgia Southern. And I guess maybe as a fan, if Nebraska can look encouraging on Saturday, there's going to be Husker fans that pencil in a 3-0 start.
Oh yeah.
And you can't blame them for that, especially if there's an encouraging performance put out on the field on Saturday. And I'm sure we're going to get the texters of, you can't just overlook North Dakota and Georgia Southern. And obviously you can't, but those hopefully you're building off of a game against Northwestern, right? If you think back to last year, and once again, this is another parallel, I suppose, before we get to break, is Nebraska had an opportunity last year and they have the same opportunity in front of them this year to get a week 0 win and start off 1-0. And then somewhat build off of that with 2 easier games in weeks 1 and 2, basically. And now last year they lose to Illinois, and it really, number one, it was deflating right out of the gate, just absolutely deflating and demoralizing for your program, for your fan base as well.
Yeah,
just absolutely deflating and demoralizing. And so now this year, you kind of sit here and go, let's not have that feeling again, and actually be able to build off of a week 0 game rather than last year you lose to Illinois and you sit there and go, well, what kind of team do we have right now? A team that tosses the ball out of the end zone on a punt return for a safety, a team that missed 2 PATs from the Big Ten kicker, the reigning Big Ten kicker of the year, and a quarterback in his 4th year starting for Nebraska who fumbled the ball and they returned for a touchdown. Like that was what we were saying after the game, and saying, all right, now we look at the next 2 games as, well, what can you really learn from your team in the next 2 games? Like we went into that Oklahoma game in week 3 in Norman going, what kind of team do we have? What is our team? You don't want that this year. You can't afford that this year. You got to have it where we're coming out of the Northwestern game here in week 0 saying Nebraska dominated in all facets of the game, just like they should have, just like they were supposed to, come out, do their job, be disciplined. And then now you can't learn a lot from North Dakota and Georgia Southern, but a 3-0 looks a lot better than 2-1.
Well, and I think you can see some things there, right? I mean, even like I always go back to that Buffalo game where maybe it was a sign of things to come. They were tripping over their own feet in that game. They should have won that game 56-3.
Yeah,
they only put like 28 on the board. So I think you could learn some stuff there while still getting the victory. And I think that's kind of what you're going to see this year. And like you said, the players on the team can't look at it this way. But if you're a Nebraska fan and you're giving serious contemplation to Nebraska losing to Georgia Southern or North Dakota, then what are we even doing? You know what I mean? Certainly, I mean, it can't happen.
You would hope that Nebraska's program hasn't fallen that far.
No.
To where, and you're not, because once again, like, here's the thing, as brutal as it might be to say and to admit, if we're at that point, if we ever find ourselves at that point, it's not a talent thing. That's a coaching thing. Yeah. Because when you're playing those teams like North Dakota and Georgia Southern, there's the talent gap is huge in favor of Nebraska. So in that situation, it's a coaching thing.
Yeah.
And that could really open up some eyes if Nebraska struggles against any of those teams.
Well, and it's going to somewhat set up, this week. I mean, it's the start of another year where I think it's going to be pretty tense. Remember last year, all the losses, all the close losses, every week felt like Trev could come out on Monday.
Exactly.
That's what it feels like. And I think you might kind of get that feeling again this year. Obviously, the Northwestern loss would get things kind of feeling that way if they did lose that game. If they win, you're still kind of going into each week going, well, if they lose this week, then, and so I don't know if how tense it's going to get, but man, last year was a ride like that. It was crazy.
It was freaky. And just, a little bit of programming. Bach and I will be taking care of the Husker after party post-game show, the call-in show for an hour and a half following every single game. So I hope you guys can join us, first of all. But second of all, I don't want to be sitting here on Saturday afternoon going, all right, Nebraska's 0-1. Now what are we going to learn from North Dakota and Georgia Southern? And don't forget, because we're going to have to mention it if this is the case, don't forget Scott Frost buyout cuts in half after week 6. Like that's going to be the conversation. And then the
sellout streak.
There's just no breathing room right now. And so as everybody knows, once again, 402-464-5685. Let's do a little bit of a, not necessarily a roll call, but when we come back, let's kind of dive into what Nebraska's game plan needs to look like, right? We always just preface it with they need to establish the run. They need to be not run heavy necessarily, but rely on the run. So on a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being bad, 10 being good, send in a text. How confident are you that Nebraska's going to be able to come out and execute a game plan with a new offense, new staff? 1, you're not confident. 10, you're very confident and you know what's going to happen, and they're going to run away with this one. Send in a text. We'll get to all those coming up after the break. You're listening to Early Break on the Ticket. Nick Sainert and Jake Bachhoven in for Sorensen and Sipple, who are across the pond.
Gaina Trucking is hiring CDL Class A and B drivers. Gaina Trucking guarantees a 40-hour work week year-round, and their strong team culture makes it not a job, but a career. Gaina Trucking offers health, vision, and dental insurance, 401k with company match, an employee assistance program, and other bonus programs. Build a better career today with great team culture at Gaina Trucking. Learn more and apply today at GainaTrucking.com. You know that feeling after a good, hearty meal? The worries of the world just slip away. Time slows down. Nothing but good times and good company. That's what you get with Mary Ellen's Food for the Soul. Mary Ellen's does food right, with a menu that includes smoked wings, pulled pork, brisket, catfish. And don't sleep on their sides, shrimp and grits, collard greens, baked beans. It's food that makes your heart happy. Mary Ellen's Food for the Soul, just east of 27th and Pineland. Let them fix you a plate.
It's time to kick off the Nebraska high school football season. Hey guys, it's Nick Sainert, and join me for a Thursday night matchup as the Lincoln East Spartans host the Kearney Bearcats at 7 p.m. Then Friday, join DP and myself for a doubleheader. We kick things off at 4:30 with Lincoln Southeast taking on Elkhorn South, and the nightcap featuring the Lincoln High Lynx and the Lincoln Southwest Silverhawks around 8 p.m. That's this Thursday and Friday on 93.7 The Ticket, your home for high school football.
High school football is sponsored by Southeast Community College, Members-Owned Credit Union, Union Bank and Trust, Mosaic of Southeast Nebraska, Nebraska DOT Highway Safety Office, and Gaina Trucking.
If you came across someone struggling with hunger, how would you recognize them? By their clothes, their age, the way they speak? Would you notice a 16-year-old boy who got his first job,
not for extra spending money, but to help feed his little sisters?
Or a mother who's in between jobs and sometimes goes to bed hungry so her kids can have dinner? Or a 14-year-old girl who signs up to every after-school activity, not to make friends, but just to get something to eat? Or a retiree who fell ill and had to choose
between getting medicine or groceries.
I am the 1 in 8 Americans who struggle with hunger. People you pass by every day but never knew were hungry. I am hunger in America.
Hunger can be hard to recognize. Learn why at IamHungerInAmerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America, 200 Food Banks Strong, and the Ad Council.
What I know about courage, I learned from my adoptive mom. She said sometimes you just gotta hold on and know we'll get through this. Mom, we are so high up. Hold my hand.
No, you hold my hand.
Here we go.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org to find out more.
I learned patience from my adoptive dad. All he had to say was,
"Hey, you got this. Just breathe." Hey, we're pretty good.
Yeah.
Might have to start a band.
I got it.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org to find out more. This message is brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council.
Casey's General Stores is giving away 2 tickets to each Nebraska football home game this season. To enter, just head to any Casey's General Store location in Lincoln during the football season, scan the QR code at the front counter, and fill out the online form. One winner will be chosen at random 2 days before that week's game. So head over to Casey's, stock up on all your tailgating snacks and drinks, and register to win 2 tickets to a Nebraska football game, brought to you by Casey's General Store and 93.7 The Ticket.
Finally, a good reason to have a smart house. Just say, "Alexa, play 93.7 The Ticket," and we'll magically start playing. How's it work? Nobody knows. Don't ask questions.
The weather in Nebraska is unpredictable every day, and that's no fun when you're trying to golf. Double Eagle Golf in West Lincoln is now open to let you play in perfect indoor conditions daily. Double Eagle Golf has 5 simulator bays to hit in, by far the most in Lincoln. It has a fully stocked bar with beers and cocktails for you to enjoy while you play. Double Eagle Golf is open each weekday from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m., so you can start the day there, take a client over lunch, or end the night with friends. Check out Double Eagle Golf today inside the Kinetic Sports Complex on West O Street.
93.7 The Ticket is proud to provide listeners with daily opportunities to win contests and prizes on our airwaves, and would like to take this opportunity to remind you of a couple rules. All participants must be 21 or older and wait 30 days after winning a prize before participating in another contest. Once you win, you have 30 days to pick up your prize at the KNTK Studios, 330 North 48th Street in Lincoln, or your prize will be forfeited. Thank you for participating in our contest, and thank you for listening to 93.7 The Ticket.
This
Well, good morning, little brother.
is Early Break with Sip and Jake. Weekday mornings from 6 to 8 on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Back here on Early Break on The Ticket, Nick Sander, Jake Sorensen, hanging out with you guys the rest of the week here as
Jake Sorensen's not here.
Or excuse me, Jake Bachoven. Gee whiz.
He's in Dublin.
I think what the problem is, I'm so used to calling you Bach that when I
Yeah.
bring you back, I just call you Jake, and that automatically makes me think of Jake Sorensen.
Fair enough.
So Nick and Jake Bachoven with you. Sorensen and Sipple are in Ireland. So Huskers have arrived. If you're just now joining us, they arrived about, an hour and 30 minutes ago, hour and a half ago. So asked this before the break, and I want to get to your guys' text, 402-464-5685. One being, no, you're not confident at all that Nebraska's going to be able to execute a game plan. 10 is obviously the most confident. Sanderson says 10. Patrick says 3. There is nothing in Frost's time here that makes me think they can have a good game plan and actually execute it. Grandpa Rick says he likes the new coaches and players. Give it an 8. Unnamed texter says, I'm still worried about the Whipple-Frost mesh of systems. Ohio Husker, 8, just because of the new pieces. I still feel like we will win by a couple of scores. Joe in Boulder said this, my confidence level is a 5. As I've said all along, I think all these changes are either going to kick in and lead to a great season, or they're going to create such dysfunction that this season implodes. That's an interesting way to look at it, because I think there's a way here, especially that the way that Nebraska's defense sets up. And Sip and I kind of talked about this a little bit yesterday. There's a way that this sets up that Nebraska's offense, specifically against Northwestern, doesn't have to be coming out guns a-blazing. They don't have to be firing on all cylinders to win this game, right? Yeah. Nebraska's not going to have to put up 45 points to win this game. They're not playing Ohio State. So there's a way here that in this game, Nebraska, you could walk away on Saturday evening and say Nebraska relied on their defense. They leaned on their defense, and it got the job done. Now, Are you excited about that? Probably not, because there's been a lot of excitement surrounding the offense. But I think Nebraska's also at a point where, as a fan, you just kind of have to take what you can get, especially in game 1 of the season in week 0, right? Because we talked about how important and how great a fast start, or I guess a 3-0 start would be for Nebraska. Heck, a 1-0 start. Now, with that being said, then the conversation is going to be, this offense needs to get going by Oklahoma. Like there are no excuses. I'm not trying to say that there's an excuse here for the offense not to be kicking on all cylinders or firing on all cylinders by North Dakota or Georgia Southern. But there's also some realisticness that you have to kind of take into account, where with guys going across the pond and new staff, you don't know how well this offense specifically is going to blend.
Yeah, I mean, if they can get it rolling, then roll downhill, right? I mean, then get it going. But this is not a Northwestern team that's going to score a whole bunch of points. I mean, they scored in all of their conference games last year. Their high point was 21. Their final 6 games, they didn't score more than 14. I mean, they're very offensively challenged. We'll see. Maybe they throw Brendan Sullivan in there, the redshirt freshman quarterback, to try to give him a spark. But you don't expect them to just be able to score 30 overnight. I think they're going to struggle. Nebraska's defense, as we know, is pretty solid from last year, and looking to build upon that. So, I would that would be my game plan too. Is kind of reserved. Not worrying if things don't all go right. You can punt the ball and play a little field position game with Northwestern over there, because I know it's going to be a difference, obviously, in feel if you win 48-14 as opposed to squeaking out a 27-24 victory. But a win's a win at this point. And, I kind of hate to say that, but that's where you are. You've got to get the W's. You've got to start getting it. You got to get to a bowl game. You got to get this program back to that level. And it's and you have to have a place to start. This is game 1. You don't need to be in mid-season form if you're on that offense. A lot of weapons. I mean, I can easily see it getting to the point where Nebraska does put up a lot of points.
Exactly.
But I don't think that should be the game plan. I think the game plan should be to try to get start running downhill. They ran all over Northwestern last year. Why change that approach?
That's an interesting discussion of, and we can get this into it in the 7:00 hour in a little bit here, but taking what you did last year either with a grain of salt or taking it into account pretty heavily, right? And the staff is going to kind of have to juggle that, I suppose. Let's get to some more of the thoughts here. Kenton Lincoln, it's been a struggle every year under Frost. Hard to believe that automatically changes under Whipple. Maybe a half of decent football, so I'll say a 5. John in Fremont says 9. I'm very confident they'll come out and take care of business. The law of averages has to swing in our favor at some point, doesn't it? Corey in Lincoln says 8, and I've backed it up with my wallet. Corey, we are in the same boat there.
You bet on this game?
I did. I took Nebraska to cover the 13.5.
Oh, I moved up from 12.5 last I heard. Wow.
Yeah, so I took Nebraska to cover 13.5. Nate took him at 20.5.
My goodness.
So he adjusted the line Saturday when we were at the casino.
So they can make more?
But then he's just that confident in Nebraska. And like my thought on that is, on the off chance Northwestern comes out and scores a touchdown first, like if Nebraska defers and Northwestern scores an opening touchdown, that's a 28-point swing that Nebraska's going to have to make to cover that bet.
Yeah.
Like, so it's just kind of a sticky situation. Tyler says this, any idea what the weather is going to be like Saturday for the game over there? Probably a little chilly, maybe a little bit of rain as well. We'll get that weather report here for you once we get a little bit closer. Doc says this, the first half of the game is going to be ugly from both teams. I'm not expecting a lot of points at halftime from either team. It's going to be a defensive battle. This is a game where the defense needs to win games. The offense is raw and the defense has more veterans, so they need to make plays to win the game and let the offense figure itself out. And I feel like this is a game, once again, and we'll say this before we get to break, I feel like this is a game that you know what you're going to get from the defense, and we have no clue what the offense is going to, how the offense is going to perform.
Do you know what you're going to get from the defense completely? I guess when my fear, I guess my only fear would be rush defense heading into the season. That's what Northwest. I mean, there's a possibility, Evan Hull and Cam Porter are averaging 5 yards a pop on Saturday.
Well, and that's the issue, and that's where maybe you just hope that maybe Nebraska's ready to open it up a little bit more. like you hope that this is a situation where halfway through the third quarter, Nebraska's running the ball pretty heavily. And so, song of the day is next on the ticket.
Hi, Sean Callahan here for Coppell Chevrolet GMC, and things are cooking in Louisville. Right now, our pre-owned sales are off the charts, and we have loaded up the lots full of inventory. We've got a great supply of Sierras, Silverados, Tahoes, Yukons, and crossovers. Plus, we've got a great supply of back-to-school cars just in time for the big day. Don't forget about all of those new 2022 and 2023 units arriving every day as well. So please take that short, money-saving drive down 144th Street or shop online at CoppellCars.com. You'll be glad you did.
The Salt Dogs are back with the best lineup for a night out in Lincoln, including Fireworks Fridays. Every weekend homestand at Haymarket Park begins with baseball and post-game fireworks set to your favorite music. Baseball, a big light show, and the best view in town. There's no better place to be on a summer night in Lincoln. Lead off your weekend the right way with Fireworks Fridays. Get your tickets at saltdogs.com.
People first is more than a nice sentiment. At American Senior Benefits, it's the mission. If you're ready for a career where you can truly put your customers' needs ahead of everything else, this is for you. American Senior Benefits is one of the leading senior market insurance product distributors in the country, and they're looking for high-energy applicants with strong communication skills. Enjoy on-the-job training, a fun work environment, and unlimited income potential. Visit ASBMidwest.com to learn more. American Senior Benefits.
This message is for Shauna, my mom who just finished her high school diploma. I wanted to say I'm so proud of you for finishing school. You taught me it's never too late to achieve your dreams. I hope to make you as proud as you have made me.
When you graduate, they graduate. Finish your high school diploma for you and for them. Visit finishyourdiploma.org to find free and supportive adult education centers near you. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
You've heard of Jay Cutler, right? No, not the former quarterback. I'm talking the Jay Cutler, a four-time Mr. Olympia winner and one of the top bodybuilders in history. Well, he has his own nutrition brand, and you can buy his own products and tons of other items to help you reach your goals at Goliath Nutrition. Drop by their HQ today to browse their growing family of products at 17th and O in Lincoln or online at GoliathNutritionStore.com.
You love to bash his sports takes.
Now, will you feel like an idiot if you're
No,
a big tough?
never feel like an
If
idiot.
you're a big tough guy this morning,
But you really love to voice your displeasure for his music choices.
he stumbled on an issue that I did not think would generate this much passion and discussion.
It's time for Jake's questionable song of the day on Early Break on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Lose you, and I don't know where I'm going to. Silk suit, like that. I don't need a reason why we come running to the again. Cause every girl crazy about a sharp man.
Song of the day, Sharp Dressed Man by ZZ Top. Give it a rating on the Starter Heyman text line. 1 is bad, 10 is good. Sharp Dressed Man by ZZ Top. Once again, Song of the Day, Sharp Dressed Man by ZZ Top, released in 1983. I believe it's on the Eliminator album, Bach. Do you know ZZ Top? Are you a fan of ZZ Top?
I've said this before. I usually don't know a whole lot before probably like the mid 90s. A song here and there, and ZZ Top kind of falls into that category for me. I mean, I know their some of their hits, but I wouldn't consider myself too much of a fan. But you know, that gets you into a nice groove.
So here's the thing. So I'm a big ZZ Top guy. Last time I filled in for Jake. I think it was during the College World Series. When I filled in for Sorensen. First song I did was Tush by ZZ Top.
Nice.
And that's probably my all-time favorite ZZ Top song. Same album, I believe, by the way. But Let's get to some of your ratings. First, I guess we'll get to yours first, Bach. No Gus today, so we don't get to hear the former Lincoln Southeast linebackers rating. But
that what you refer to him as?
that's what SIP refers to him as.
Okay.
But Bach, if you had to give it a rating, what are we thinking here?
I like it. I did not necessarily expect it. I guess I don't know your music taste, but I figured it'd be
That's right.
A little bit.
I'm not saying that I don't
later.
listen to ZZ Top on the regular.
Oh, really?
No,
I thought you said it was one of your favorite bands
from this era.
From this era. Okay.
From this era. So when we're talking about questionable, ZZ Top's not questionable in my eyes, but maybe the songs are.
Yeah. I'll give it a 7.5. I like.
Okay.
I think it gets you in a nice mood on a morning.
All right, sounds good. Let's get to some of the thoughts on the text line here. There's a lot here. Rod says, nice Tuesday song, 8.0. Leroy gives it a 9.4. Harper gives it a 9, and Harper's dad gives it a 7. Bird in Columbus gives it a 9. Doug in Lincoln says Jake should stay overseas, 9. Thomas in Lincoln, thank you for the banger, 8.5. Eric with the nice little, you're trying too hard, Thickless. ZZ Top gets a 9, you get a 1.5. Appreciate it, Eric. Mouth of the South, Nick, I still hate you, but solid 8 on that song. See, the Rashawn Jackson people are just coming out. They found me on early break, so they're coming out. Sanderson, yawn. The Eagle has already played that song 4 times today, 5.8.
Nice.
That's awesome. That's the thing is yesterday, here's the thing. I played, what was it yesterday? Magic Carpet Ride by Steppenwolf. It was one that's released in, I think, 68 is what I read.
Okay.
And I got criticized, and probably rightfully so, because it wasn't questionable.
Yeah.
But one thing is obviously I'm 21 years old, and I think
that's kind of questionable.
I think it's pretty questionable. So, I thought to myself last night, I was like, man, I need to find a questionable song of the day. And I was like, I don't know, like Sharp Dressed Man is one. It was between Sharp Dressed Man and Legs. I knew I was going to go ZZ Top, just didn't know which one I was going to go with. John Fremont says, great song, 9.0. Mississippi Mud Dog says, no way Nick chose the song of the day. That song is out of his league. Thank you.
I think.
Guilt Nerd says 8.9. I love it. J Stu, not a fan, 3 out of 10. John gives it 11. Roger gives it an 8. Corey in Lincoln says 4. Nothing but classic rock radio staples, huh? You're 21. You'd think you come with a different flavor than Jake. I can come with a different flavor tomorrow. We'll be fine. I'll come with a very new song tomorrow. Maybe that's what I need to do.
Yeah.
Come with a very new pop song.
Some Dua Lipa.
And I'd be curious to know, how many on the text line know Dua Lipa. And come with, or Lizzo.
Yeah, Lizzo.
Dua Lipa or Lizzo, and we'll see how many people like it. Just for fun. Hizzlebear says, nice song, 8. Breezy says, I'm not a big ZZ Top fan, but that song is somewhat good, 5.0. Randy gives it a 10. Reminds me of my times at Lincoln Southeast. This is an easy automatic 9.9 from Steven in Lincoln. Kevin in Southwest Lincoln. I've only heard it 1,000 times, 2.3. Bubba gives it a good stuff, Nick, 6.5. And then Jim in Lincoln wants me to play Dua Lipa by Jack Harlow tomorrow. So we'll see what happens. Once again, song of the day was Sharp Dressed Man by ZZ Top. Let's go and get to break. When we come back, we're going to continue to dive into this Northwestern discussion because we haven't really gotten to what the game plan should or might look like for Nebraska. We always just preface it with saying, let's run the damn ball, right? Let's run the ball. So how's that look, right? I mean, Nebraska can't afford to go away from the run. Like, you want to Nebraska to get to a point where at the third quarter, you're saying, yeah, the run didn't really work out at the beginning, but Nebraska stuck with it. I think that'd be a dream come true for a lot of Husker fans. So let's go ahead and take a break. We'll get to the 7 o'clock hour here in the next couple minutes. When we come back, we'll kind of break down a game plan of what we want it to look like against Northwestern here on Saturday. Once again, the Huskers have arrived in Dublin. So according to Scott Frost on Sunday, he told us they're going to go straight to the stadium and work out a little bit before they reach the hotel later today. Nick Sainert and Jake Bachhoven filling in for Sorensen and Sipple, who are across the pond. We'll be right back. Early break on the ticket, ticketfm.com.
You've heard of Jay Cutler, right? No, not the former quarterback. I'm talking the Jay Cutler, a 4-time Mr. Olympia winner and one of the top bodybuilders in history. Well, he has his own nutrition brand, and you can buy his own products and tons of other items to help you reach your goals at Goliath Nutrition. Drop by their HQ today to browse their growing family of products at 17th and O in Lincoln or online at GoliathNutritionStore.com.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com.
On the internet.
KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket.
Hey, wouldn't it be great if life came with a remote control? You know, you could hit pause when you needed to, or hit rewind. Like that time you knocked down that wasp's nest.
Uh-oh.
Or that time you forgot to roll up your windows in the car wash.
Fantastic.
Yeah, a remote control would have come in handy then. Well, life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome, but prediabetes does. With early diagnosis and a few healthy changes like managing your weight, getting active, stopping smoking, and eating healthier, you can stop prediabetes before it leads to type 2 diabetes. It's easy to learn your risk. Take the 1-minute test today at doihaveprediabetes.org. Life doesn't come with a remote control. So you're on your own with the wasps. You have the power to take control of prediabetes. Visit doihaveprediabetes.org today. That's doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its Prediabetes Awareness Partners.
People first is more than a nice sentiment. At American Senior Benefits, it's the mission. If you're ready for a career where you can truly put your customers' needs ahead of everything else, this is for you. American Senior Benefits is one of the leading senior market insurance product distributors in the country, and they're looking for high-energy applicants with strong communication skills. Enjoy on-the-job training, a fun work environment, and unlimited income potential. Visit ASBMidwest.com to learn more. American Senior Benefits.
Imagine your next staff meeting. Now imagine your next staff meeting with a side of ribs. Your next client presentation? Or that same client presentation with brisket and baked beans. It's better, right? Let Mary Ellen's Food for the Soul take care of all of your business catering needs. Feed the staff, cater your next event, whatever you need, Mary Ellen's can help. They can even host your events in their brand new event space located right next to the restaurant. Go see for yourself. Mary Ellen's Food for the Soul at 29th and Pine Lake or online at maryellens.com. Let them fix you a plate.
This message is for Shauna, my mom who just finished her high school diploma. I wanted to say I'm so proud of you for finishing school. You told me it's never too late to achieve your dreams. I hope to make you as proud as you have made me.
When you graduate, they graduate. Finish your high school diploma for you and for them. Visit finishyourdiploma.org to find free and supportive adult education centers near you. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
Wow. Did you ever save me money on my car?
Yes, that's why our customers keep coming back.
How do you do it, friendly car dealer ?
We simply have low overhead and high trade-in values. The next line's yours.
Oh.
Ready for something better? Mullen Motors is a no-hassle, no-pressure dealership with financing available. Check out the inventory at MikeMullenMotors.com.
No taglines, just quality vehicles. Mullen Motors.
What I know about courage, I learned from my adoptive mom. She said sometimes you just gotta hold on and know we'll get through this. Mom, we are so high up. Hold my hand.
No, you hold my hand.
Here we go.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org to find out more. This message is brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council.
Gaina Trucking is hiring CDL Class A and B drivers. Gaina Trucking guarantees a 40-hour work week year-round, and their strong team culture makes it not a job, but a career. Gaina Trucking offers health, vision, and dental insurance, 401k with company match, an employee assistance program, and other bonus programs. Build a better career today with great team culture at Gaina Trucking. Learn more and apply today at GainaTrucking.com.
Hi, I'm Smokey Bear, and I made an assistant to help you prevent wildfires.
Dude, I've got this. I've been camping since I was 5 years old.
But I am a camping influencer.
You know what? I'll bet you $5. Assistant Smokey, what is the best way to put out a campfire?
To put out a campfire, drown with water, stir, drown again. Then make sure the fire is out cold by feeling with the back of your hand.
Wait, really?
I'll take the $5.
Learn more at SmokeyBear.com.
Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
If you or someone you know is having thoughts of suicide or experiencing a mental health or substance use crisis, Call 988 for free, confidential, and compassionate support. On July 16th, the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is transitioning to 988. There is hope. For 24/7 support, call, text, or chat 988.
Sponsored by Nebraska DHHS, aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
And we're live here outside the Perez family home, just waiting for and there they go. Almost on time this morning. Mom is coming out the front door strong with a double-arm kid carry. Looks like Dad has the bags. Daughter is bringing up the rear. Oh, but the diaper bag wasn't closed. Diapers and toys are everywhere. Ooh, but Mom has just nailed the perfect car seat buckle for the toddler. And now the eldest daughter, who looks to be about 9 or 10, has secured herself in the booster seat. Dad zips the bag closed, and they're off. But looks like Mom doesn't realize her coffee cup is still on the roof of the car, and there it goes. Oh, that's a shame. That mug was a fam favorite.
Don't sweat the small stuff. Just nail the big stuff, like making sure your kids are buckled correctly in the right seat for their age and size. Learn more at nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Wake up, Lincoln.
Come on, it's 6 o'clock. Rise and shine, rise and shine.
It's time for Early Break with Sip and Jake, brought to you by Gaina Trucking. Live from the Coppel Chevrolet GMC studios in the heart of Lincoln, America. Here's 93.7 The Ticket's Jake Sorensen.
Did seem kind of meh.
And Steve Sipple.
Surprisingly good.
This is Early Break with Sip and Jake, sponsored by Gaina Trucking.
Hour number 2 here on Early Break on The Ticket. Nick Sainert, Jake Bachhoven with you guys, filling in for Sorensen and Sipple the rest of the week here. 7 o'clock hour number 2, coming your way. Want to hear from you guys the rest of the way here. 402-464-5685, the Honda of Lincoln hotline, the Starter Heyman text line, as well as the Starter Heyman Jewelers video stream, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. You can always reach out to Bach or I on our Twitters, Nick_Sainert and at Jake Bachhoven as well. All right, Bach, time to talk a little bit of a game plan. I want to hear your guys' thoughts on this, especially 402-464-5685. Feel free to call in. Feel free to text in. Because there's a lot of we always just put a blanket statement on it that we want Nebraska to run the ball. And I'm curious what that looks like. And I think more importantly, Bach, I always go back to the Michigan State game last year as a team that really embraced the idea that they had a dark horse at running back. They had, or I should say, a big dog at running back in Kenneth Walker III. Michigan State did. And although he didn't find success, actually didn't find any success through 4 quarters, the first 2 plays of overtime, what did they do? They ran the ball with him. And I keep going back every time we talk about Nebraska's game plan, or every time we talk about what we want Nebraska to look like, I always go back to that Michigan State game and think to myself, Nebraska's defense played exceptionally well that game. Exceptionally well. But at some point, the physicality is going to wear down on you. The physicality is going to wear down. And so with that in mind, Nebraska could be on the offensive side of that this year, or specifically this game, this Saturday, to where even if the running game does not start out well for Nebraska, it doesn't mean that they need to abandon it. That's one of the main things that needs to change this season, is that when the going gets tough and the running game isn't effective, you don't just completely abandon it, or you don't switch personnel either. I think that's another big idea, is that go with the flow of the game and understand the difference between playing a good defensive group or a good opponent, quality defense, and just completely taking a guy out of rhythm. I think there's a big difference there.
Yeah, I'm fascinated, but to see how this running game goes, particularly in the amount of carries that these guys are going to get. I think you got to get somebody into a rhythm, and I think that they're still maybe working out who those guys are going to be, and then maybe maybe they have some leeway in these first few games to do that, to try to identify who the lead rusher is going to be. As we've maybe noted over the last several years, guys have risen up the depth chart and maybe they haven't identified the best running back for their situation right away. So, you know, and that happens too. I mean, I know we're often blaming the coaches for that, but guys develop at their own rate. I want to see somebody. I want to see somebody get more than 13 carries a game. I want to see somebody actually get into a rhythm. And you know, they've got all these different backs with different abilities. And you know, do you want to just kind of mix it up and play everybody their strengths, or do you want to identify two guys, you know, one or two guys that are going to be the bell cows of that running group? And that's what I'd like to see. And you know, I don't know. I mean, you got to play the strength of your offensive line. I hope that this coaching staff is smart enough to do that and not hard-headed enough to go the other way, because I know, listen, I love the idea of a running game making a resurgence at Nebraska.
Yeah.
So out of the last 5 years, one of those including Mike Riley, but 3 of the last 5 years, you haven't had a running back get over 500 yards. I mean, it's been bad. Obviously, it's been led by Adrian Martinez the last 2 years. So they need to kind of get back to that. This is a running back sort of league. You know, you need that traditional running game to get going. I don't know if I completely trust it though, because when I step back, I know we're close on it. We want to hear, you know, we're all interested in the running back battle, and just kind of culturally, we ask more running questions, so the coaches answer them. So they,
That's
you know, maybe there's more of a storyline there than that we create, more so than what they wanted to create. I just think when I look at it, Mark Whipple, more of a passing guy. You know, you brought in a new passing game coordinator, Casey Thompson. You got him out of the transfer. He wants to throw the ball 40 times a game. Has said as much, that he wants, you know, chuck it all over the field. I think that you know, I'd love to see it. I don't know if I'll wait to believe it until I do see it.
Yes, Scott Frost was actually asked on Sunday what the separation looks like at running back. Here's what he had to say.
It'd be a good question for Applewhite. Separation, I don't know. I think most of those guys are a little different. They have a little bit different skill set, but I've seen so much improvement out of the guys that have been here, and they've been pushed by the new guys. And I've said this before, I think this is the most talented and deepest group that we've had, so we just need to play well.
By saying this before, it's been in previous years, I suppose. But anyway, no, I mean, TC says this on the text line once again, 402-464-5685. Running game won't happen until they fix the line. Screw all the other talent at skill positions. We can win 9+ with mediocre skill position players and a great offensive line. Bubba adds that won't happen, Nick. Run the ball guy gives up on it and starts screaming at the TV after the first 7 to 10 runs don't add up too much. And I just think that, like, Nebraska's in a situation where they need to figure out something sustainable, right? And you have to ask yourself, is passing the ball 45 times in a pretty run-dominant conference sustainable? And it hasn't been up to 4. And not saying they've thrown the ball 45 times, but has passing the ball and quarterback run been sustainable in the first 4 years? And the answer is absolutely not. So I that's what gives me a little bit of hope, is because we're in this make it or break it year. And so you would hope and expect a guy like Scott Frost to look back at previous years and go, what did we do that is not, number one, sustainable, was not executed well? And you could argue that a good chunk of their offense, outside of a couple plays last year, was not sustainable, right? One of the couple of plays that were sustainable, the little post route to set Mari Toure to kick off the game every single week, where they scored on 75-yard touchdown plays, and then the Chancellor Brewington play. Like when it's 3rd and 1, the quarterback run is not sustainable. Even if it's for a first down, it's not sustainable.
I'll get your quarterback beat up.
Exactly.
Over the year,
and then that's what happened. So, like, I just sit here and I go, although Mark Whipple comes in with more of a pass kind of style, I would expect Nebraska to be okay running the ball 30, 40 times a game. I think they need to. I think they have to. I think part of this also is that they don't have a choice.
Why? I mean, because of their offensive line?
Either offensive line, you also just don't have the as athletic of a quarterback back there. I just think that once you get to like the short down and distance, you're going to have to give it off to somebody.
I can see a few times people getting upset about, maybe a 3rd and 2 and you just go back to pass. I think this is going to be a pass heavy system. We'll see. I think the most important thing is to play the strength of the offensive line. Whether the offensive line has made strides in run blocking or pass blocking, maybe it's both. Maybe all of a sudden one of the worst offensive lines from last year, you throw in Donovan Raiola and he has the magic touch. I'd love to see it. I don't know if I can believe it. So I think that first of all, it was almost magical what Nebraska was able to do for all the kind of flames thrown at Scott Frost and his offense.
You're right.
I don't know how they ended up like 20th in the nation in yards per game with that offensive line. I mean, that's difficult for any play caller. Yeah. So I give him a little bit of credit for that. Obviously, that was maybe the better example of Nebraska's offensive line. Obviously, 2020, or Nebraska's offense, I should say, overcoming their offensive line. 2020 wasn't so pretty. So, I understand why they made the changes. They had, they're trying to drop something completely new. And I think that there's a chance too that you see run heavy early against Northwestern, or just like early in the season. I mean, against Northwestern and some of these teams, and then when it's really kind of mid-season or headed toward the later part of the season, you start throwing the ball around a little bit more. But to me, because they ran the ball all over Northwestern, we talked about this before. How much do you kind of take into account what they did last year? Well, I would take it somewhat into account, make them prove that they can stop. You ran for, what was it, 500 yards on them last season? Why you're doing them a favor if you adjust that at all before you make them stop it. Make them show you that they could stop what you already did to them to the tune of 56-7 with 500 yards rushing. I don't know why you would change that.
Well, so unnamed texter right here says this, if we don't pass the ball to open the box up, we won't be able to run. I look at it the other way. I think that's where Nebraska's mentality might need to change, is you got to run the ball to open up the pass. And that's, once again, that's exactly where I'm coming from, is that in this game on Saturday, there's a situation where Nebraska's offense comes out and starts sputtering a little bit right out of the gate because of all the new personnel, because you're in Ireland. Although there should be no excuses, I understand that, but that's just the reality of it, is that if they come out and they struggle, you don't want to see them panic. We've seen this team, this program in recent years panic when they haven't been able to run the ball and completely desert the run. That's what needs to change. When you look at, I was just talking to Vershawn about this yesterday, just talking to AD and Raf yesterday as well. And they all said the same thing. If you're able to start with running the football, and even if it's not successful right out of the gate, you can stick with it, force the back end, the safeties, the secondaries to play up. If you're Northwestern, if you're Nebraska, you force Northwestern safeties to play up, and bam, you're telling me anybody with Northwestern is able to stop Trey Palmer? Like, I'm taking Trey Palmer or Omar Manning going up against a Northwestern defensive back.
I mean, they've got some defensive backs that have been starting there. I think, I'd love to believe in what you're saying, but I think we've got a little bit too much faith in those type of guys. I mean, Omar Manning had, 330 yards receiving or whatever it was last year, 380. It's not an all Big Ten, wide receiver.
Maybe I'm going off of body type. Maybe I'm going off of body type.
And Nebraska should have the matchups, and I like the weapons that they have. I think there's just, there's a lot more that needs to be proven rather than just assuming these guys like Trey Palmer, like Samori Toure is going to be tough to beat his numbers. Maybe Trey Palmer does it. Maybe Trey Palmer lives up to all the expectations that we have before. But shouldn't the Omar Manning example teach us that maybe we shouldn't put the cart before the horse?
That's absolutely right. That's absolutely right.
So, I mean, I think that I think they've got the weapons. I think they're going to sling the ball all over. So I think somebody's going to have to get some of these yards. I'm just interested to see who it's going to be. But at the same time, I mean, for those comments, I mean, both of those are right. Ideally, you want to be able to run and pass. So run to open up the bat. Either way you look at it, it just sometimes you can't get one of those things rolling.
So that with the whole cart before the horse discussion, is that the way you should approach the running back room also?
I think so. I mean, that's why maybe I'm not as bought in as a lot of people starting to give Nebraska 9 to 10 win predictions. I think if everything goes right, if Tommy Hill lives up to the hype, if Trey Palmer lives up to the hype, if Anthony Grant lives up to the hype, if Casey Thompson lives up to the hype, if O'Shawn Mathis is 9-sack O'Shawn instead of 4-sack O'Shawn,
Exactly.
all
if
this
2020 O'Shawn,
right,
not 2021 O'Shawn.
all this
that's
stuff
right.
aligns perfectly. Then Nebraska can get 9 or 10 wins. I don't think that it's like, to me, that the transfer portal is going to be somewhat like recruiting altogether. Maybe a little bit higher of a hit rate because you know what you have coming in, you know what you can expect, but automatically assuming, like, Nebraska's had the top JUCO running back twice,
multiple times.
This is the third time under Scott Frost, and give Scott Frost credit for going out and getting those guys, but they haven't turned into the next coming of Amir Abdullah or even Divine Ezigbo. So I'm not just going to claim that Anthony Grant's going to be the next 1,200-yard back at Nebraska until I can kind of see it. And that's what I'm waiting for, is finally we get to see all this play out. I mean, that's part of the intrigue of this season, is there's so much unknown. We finally get to see these guys in scarlet and cream and see which one of them are going to stand up and which one of them are going to stand out and which one of them might not. But at the same time, too, you can't be fooled by one game. Going off the first game last year, you would have thought Oliver Martin was headed toward 1,000-yard season.
Yeah. Well, and Oliver Martin kind of had a rough Illinois game because there was that route that he just completely stopped and just completely gave up. And maybe it was a poorly thrown ball by Adrian Martinez. Maybe, but I think there was also
Michigan, or which game was that? Because Illinois is when he stood out.
Illinois stood out. There was one game that he just completely stopped running.
Yeah,
and it was like,
and he pretty
what
much didn't get
here?
playing time.
Yeah, exactly. After that, so somebody on the text line, unnamed texter, once again 402-464-5685 says, so much of the thought is based on the ability to not be playing from behind. So if your offense is at least taking care of the ball, that should help to some degree. I don't know where you sit on the fence with this, Bach, but like when you look at this Northwestern game and you don't want to chalk up wins, you don't want to just give Nebraska a win, because over the last 4 years, they've done nothing to deserve that luxury of just chalking up wins or games as a win, I suppose. But when you sit there and go, if Nebraska, there's confidence for me personally to where if Nebraska takes care of the football and limits the penalties, they should walk out of there Saturday with a win. Because here's the thing, when you look at Northwestern and you look at Purdue and Minnesota, what do a lot of times they do to win games? They play clock. Well, maybe not Purdue because they're more of a pass-heavy team. But when you look at Northwestern, Minnesota, and Wisconsin, Iowa, I guess, what do? They eat up the clock, they take care of the football, and they throw in a little bit of
Don't beat themselves.
Right. What's Nebraska done the last 4 years? They've beaten themselves. Mm-hmm. And so, like, there's a way, in my opinion, that if Nebraska goes on Saturday and just kind of, I don't want to say be boring, but just take care of the football and limit penalties, has a clean game, we're walking out here with a pretty good feeling, even if the scoreboard doesn't have the separation that it did last year.
Well, I think too. I mean, I want more boring, because that's what I've seen as good play is it's like kind of not beating yourself from this side of the league. And you can say what you will about maybe the top end. I guess the ceiling of that approach, right? Maybe Wisconsin's a good case study for that, because over the last 20, 25 years, whatever, they've kind of reached a ceiling and not being able to get over that. I always say, they've had one dynamic quarterback over that time. I think that could definitely be a game changer if you add that to this approach. But to me, the Big Ten West isn't the most exciting football brand, maybe, but it sure is consistent, and it does make you feel good about not beating yourself. It's hard to imagine Northwestern up like 2 touchdowns in this game at any point, right? I mean, it's hard to imagine them, unless Nebraska is completely beating themselves and compounding mistakes and getting in the way, penalties, turnovers, that sort of thing. So I'd like to see a little bit more boring football, as people like to say about the Big West, is look more like the teams that are having success in your region, in your division. Nebraska, I mean, all the talk about, the 3-9, they were 1-8 in the Big Ten last year. That's a worse look in my mind than 3-9. Obviously, even percentage-wise, that's pretty rough. So I don't know. I think that, with this idea, and that's why I'm also a little bit torn on this whole idea, is that, I think Mark Whipple, one of the best hires, obviously coming off, the hottest point in his career with Kenny Pickett in Pittsburgh out there. I'm just interested stylistically, especially if they do get to slinging the ball all over, how that's going to work in the Big Ten West, how that's going to look, because that might, there's more possibility that you're going to, kind of add up a little bit more turnovers and stuff there if you're slinging the ball all around, and that just kind of adds to kind of beating yourself and penalties and getting in the way. I still think this team will just go as far as the offensive line takes them one way or the other, no matter what strategy they have. It's just hard to game plan and to call plays behind a bad offensive line. And again, that's why I give props to what they were able to do last year with their big playability. Are they going to have the big playability? We all assume Trey Palmer is just going to step in and be Samori Toure. Samori Toure got him out of a lot of holes last year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we get this off the text line. Froth is coming at me, says, name any starter on Northwestern's offense, I dare you. Well, you can start up front with Peter Skoronski. You can start at any of the quarterbacks that they're going to be talking about, whether it's Ryan Holiski or Evan Hull, or you can talk about the running back in Cam Porter. So they're not going to name a starter at quarterback till Saturday. So there's 4 starters on the offense.
That's the one you mainly need to know.
Yeah, exactly. And their best safety, Brandon Joseph, transferred to Notre Dame.
Yeah.
So they're believe it or not, I do know a little bit about Northwestern. Mississippi Mud Dog makes a really good point on the text line. And Bach, this is going to bring up like Bo Pelini Northwestern years. Ready? Okay. Over the last 11 years, Mississippi Mud Dog points this out. There's proof that this game will not be an easy win. Last year was the anomaly. I do think if we get a 2 to 3 score lead early, then it will be over. Northwestern is never built to come from behind. Never forget, I mean, the years, so many times Nebraska was ranked under Bo Pelini, would be near the top 10, whether they were in the top 20. They would be ranked in the top 25. And I will never forget the 2 quarterback system that Northwestern used to use with Kane Coulter and
Trevor Siemian.
And Trevor Siemian, thank you. And it was just like, come on, man. Like Nebraska, Kane Coulter, right?
No. Yeah.
Okay.
Kenny Bell's buddy.
Yes, that's right. Was trying to form a union as well.
Yeah.
I'll never forget
watching Kane Coulter.
watching his interviews on like PTI and things like that. But anyway, so Mississippi Mud Dog makes a good point. Never built to cover behind because they're that prototypical Big Ten team. Like they just have bruisers, they're physical, and that's how they're going to beat you. So as Mississippi Mud Dog points out, if you get a 2-3 score lead early, then you feel pretty good about your chances to continue it throughout the 4 quarters of the game. So once again, it just feels like this is a game, once again, like Mississippi Mud Dog says, it's a game where you can come out firing, and it would be great. As OG Lance Lancaster says, wouldn't you love a boring 35-point win though?
There you go.
And I mean, that's a possibility. It's just, you got to have a couple things fall in the lap of Nebraska, which, as we know, Nebraska hasn't had that luxury the last 4 years. So maybe, as somebody said earlier, the law of averages will eventually even out. But there's a lot of uncertainty, but there's a lot of possibility, I think.
Yeah, I think that 2011 game that you're talking about might have been more than we maybe realize the turning point of the Bo Pelini tenure at Nebraska.
That's a good way to think about it.
Because they were in the top 10. That was kind of the last time. I think at that point they had been just boat raced by Wisconsin. So you already had, remember, Nebraska wasn't getting blown out under Bo Pelini until they went to the Big Ten. And that was in 2011. But they made their way back into the top 10, and Northwestern upset them. And obviously, things didn't go as well from there. Certainly better than they still are now. But that's interesting. It's a turning point. Again, I just don't know if this is the same old story for Northwestern, though. I think in years past, the difference between their 9-win teams and their 5-win teams was a few points and a few possessions and this and that here and there. Last year was not the case. I mean, they're far off. They don't have a whole lot around. I mean, like we said, you can mention a few guys, Evan Hull or Peter Skoronski, but they just don't have a whole lot of strengths to build off from last season.
I mean, Cam Porter had, I think, 333 yards last year.
Well, Cam Porter was out.
In the previous year.
Yeah.
He had 333 yards. So it was one of those things where you take it with a grain of salt, but he's going to kind of be their guy this year, it feels like.
Yeah, we'll see between him and Evan Hull. I don't know if he's fully healthy even for this game.
Well, so what's
off injury?
Somebody says, but Northwestern has pretty facilities.
They do. They
have an awesome practice field right on the lake or whatever it is. But yeah, no, you make a really good point, Bob. They just don't have the skill position. But let's be real. A lot of the teams in the Big Ten West, specifically on paper, haven't had the talent than Nebraska has on paper. I want to make that very clear. Then it comes down to coaching if you can't transition it to Saturdays. That's where kind of the difference is between maybe even a Northwestern in years past and Nebraska, I suppose. All right, let's get to break. 402-464-5685, the Honda of Lincoln hotline, the Starter Heyman text line, both those still open for you guys the rest of the day here. Want to continue this conversation a little bit more. We might branch off. Kansas State named some captains yesterday, and the Athletic decided to talk to Adrian Martinez about his time in Nebraska. We'll see what happens. We'll probably dissect the Northwestern game a little bit more. Want to keep hearing from you guys. You guys have been great all day. 402-464-5685. It's early break on the ticket.
Bauer Infrastructure is a new name from a well-established brand, and they're paving the way to progress. And they're hiring. Bauer Infrastructure is hiring truck drivers, carpenters, truck mechanics, and equipment operators. And they have industry-leading benefits to maintain a work-life balance. Bauer offers paid time off and paid holidays, a matching 401k plan, medical, dental, vision, life, and disability insurance, a clothing allowance, and more. Start your new career today by applying at BauerInfrastructure.com.
Bagels and Joe is in full summer mode. They'll add cold foam to the top of any iced coffee. Plus, they now have a Joe Coffee Club. Get unlimited drip coffee for just $8.95 per month. And don't forget their delicious breakfast burritos and sandwiches. Bagels and Joe, 4 Lincoln locations.
Mama, what does the chicken say? Dog. Cat. Giraffe.
Giraffe, really? Giraffe.
You're not going to get it all right. Just make sure you nail the big stuff, like making sure your kids are buckled correctly in the right seat for their age and size. Get it right.
Visit NHTSA.gov/
the right seat.
Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Casey's General Stores is giving away 2 tickets to each Nebraska football home game this season. To enter, just head to any Casey's General Store location in Lincoln during the football season, scan the QR code at the front counter, and fill out the online form. One winner will be chosen at random 2 days before that week's game. So head over to Casey's, stock up on all your tailgating snacks and drinks, and register to win 2 tickets to a Nebraska football game, brought to you by Casey's General Store and 93.7 The Ticket.
Hi, this is Pastor Tom. Did you know there's a place kids can seek out help when they're away from home and something goes wrong? They find themselves in a difficult spot or even a dangerous situation. Maybe another child is bullying them or a stranger is following them. Perhaps on a date and things just go bad. In Lincoln, here's where they can find help. It's called Safe Place. Safe Place is a national program for children taking place in thousands of cities across the United States. The People's City Mission is sponsoring this program in our community and has set up a number of businesses, fire stations, schools, and nonprofits around the city to become safe locations where kids can seek out help. They just need to look for the big yellow sign that says Safe Place on it. Then go inside and ask for help. We will be quickly connected to them and ensure they make it back home or to whatever resources are needed. If you'd like to find out more about Safe Place and ways in which you can get involved, just go to pcmlincoln.org. Remember, when we all do a little, we change a lot.
Hey, batter, 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 wings, splatter, splatter, splatter. Catch all this season's baseball action at one of your neighborhood Lincoln locations. Get League of Their Own wings, burgers, nachos, and ringers while catching all the action. Stop into Wings and Rings located on O Street in Meridian Park and 40th and Old Cheney in Williamsburg Village. Or place your order online at wingsandrings.com. That's wingsandrings.com, Buffalo Wings and Rings.
Hey, it's me, your cell phone. We need to talk about something serious. I know you love me, I know you like using me wherever you are, but I feel like this isn't working out when you're driving. I know you may think that it's possible to focus both on me and the road, but I just don't feel the same way. I think we should spend time away from each other when you're driving. It's for the best.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org, a message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
The fall sports season is here, and Brown Shoe Fit is celebrating that with a sale on athletic shoes. From now through the end of August, get $10 off any regular priced athletic shoe up to $105, and get $15 off shoes regularly priced at over $105. These are shoe brands including New Balance, Brooks, Hoka, and On. Gear up for the busy fall season today with the athletic shoe sale at Brown Shoe Fit, located at 66th and Q.
I'm Smokey Bear, and I made an assistant to help you out because only you can prevent wildfires.
Hey, Assistant Smokey Bear, call me Papa Bear because I'm grilling up dinner. Did you get it?
Yes, good job.
So, what should I do with all these coals?
Don't just toss them out. Put them in a metal container because those embers can start a wildfire.
I understand. The stakes are high.
Ha, 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 ha.
Learn more at SmokeyBear.com.
Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
We're on the air. Back
Well, party's starting early today, isn't it?
to more of Early Break with Sip and Jake. Brought to you by Gaina Trucking. On 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Back here on 93.7 The Ticket, early break. No Sip and Sorensen today. They're in Ireland. Huskers landed in Dublin about 2 hours ago, about 5:30 a.m. this morning, maybe a little bit before. Their flight got delayed an hour and 10 minutes last night, so they didn't get out of Omaha until 9:10 p.m. And so obviously they landed about an hour and 10 minutes late as well. But they're heading over to I guess they've already been to Aviva Stadium. They're going to practice, do a little bit of a workout, as Scott Frost said, get a little bit of the rust off, and then they're going to go back to the hotel and have some downtime before dinner and a cultural thing, according to Scott Frost, and then they will then they'll go to bed and try to get their body calendar and cycle ready to go once again. Christian Lincoln asked this: do you think Martinez would be the best quarterback at Nebraska if he was still here? How about the most athletic? I do not think he'd be the best here, but the most athletic quarterback.
Yeah, and I mean, there's still a chance, and I hate to say that. I mean, I think they needed the breakup, but
I do too.
If this offensive line can't protect Casey, then there might be a chance that they might be better off with Adrian. I don't think
that's an interesting way to look at it.
Yeah, I mean, because we'll see. I mean, they because he could at least take the hits, and he gives you something a little bit additional in the running game. His passing's not near what Casey's going to be, so you're going to get a big upgrade there. So there is that, but it's not like Nebraska. It's not like Nebraska made a huge upgrade as far as the nations look at it, right? They kind of see, okay, it's different, and that's what Nebraska needed more than anything, was just something different.
I think it's interesting. I think a fresh start is a good way to categorize it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was refreshing on Sunday being able to hear Casey Thompson talk about Northwestern's defense the way he did and break it down the way he did, because that was something, once again, that we just haven't heard. We haven't heard a player specifically break down a defense like that when asked just a simple question of what should we know about Northwestern. We haven't heard that in years past. So number one, it's refreshing. Number two, the fresh start is big. And I guess I'm curious, this could kind of segue into a brief conversation that I want to have, because you can open up a can of worms when you're talking about former players and guys that transfer out of the program. But it's one of those things where Adrian Martinez spoke to The Athletic just a couple days ago, Max Olson, actually, and I want to hear your guys' thoughts on this. How interested are you going to be in Kansas State? Because I think back to a couple, not polarizing players. I say that Adrian was a polarizing player, but some bigger named players throughout Nebraska's recent years that have transferred out. Wan'Dale Robinson comes to my mind. How much did we pay attention to Wan'Dale Robinson last year? It was easy to, because he was leading the SEC in receiving.
Yeah.
But are you going to go out of your way to watch a Kansas State game?
Did you pay attention to Wan'Dale?
I did.
I did too. Yeah.
I mean, but I'm not ashamed to admit that I'm going to pay attention to Adrian.
Oh, I will too. It's fascinating. It's the last 4 years of Husker football.
You're right.
Over there in Manhattan. It's crazy.
Now, this isn't even a conversation of what Adrian did or didn't do here. This once again is written by The Athletic and Max Olson, and they walk through Colin Klein meeting the offensive coordinator for Kansas State, meeting Adrian Martinez at Hopcat downtown.
Coach Klein.
And
former Heisman Trophy finalist.
There you go.
The year that Manti Te'o was in it
That's
as well.
right.
But anyway, so that would have been 2012.
Johnny Manziel
2011?
winner. Yeah, 2012.
2012. So anyway, in this article, and I highly recommend that you guys go read it, go take a look at it. There's some interesting quotes in here from Adrian Martinez, from his dad, Tony Martinez, from Colin Klein. There's a couple interesting things here. Martinez says this, I'll just say it right here. Quote, if you look across the Big Ten, I don't think any other team asked their quarterback to do as much as I had to do at Nebraska. I think that's just a fact. You talk about this, Bach, the national perspective of Adrian Martinez and Casey Thompson. And from a national perspective, I think a lot of people look at it as Martinez had 10,000 plus yards at Nebraska.
Oh, yeah.
Which ranked, I think, like 7th or 8th in Big Ten history. He holds Nebraska records, and it's a guy that had some buzz around his name for potential Heisman after his freshman year All-American season. And like you sit here, and I think from the 500,000-foot view, if you're a national analyst or just somebody that's not in Lincoln, Nebraska, you're sitting here going, Nebraska lost a pretty big piece. But once you zoom in, right, we have this, it's nice to have a fresh start.
Yeah, and it's you know, the pairing between Frost and Martinez had just run its course,
Right.
and I think that's the intrigue of this split is what's going to happen. I mean, do both teams go 7-5, and then we just don't really get an answer, or is there going to be an answer at the end of the day? Who was the bigger problem in them never, as a combination, never being able to get over the hump, never getting a significant win, and ultimately, you know, obviously going 15-29 or, you know, minus 1 or 2 games that Martinez didn't start or whatever. So it's, I mean, I think that there is a reputation probably on Adrian Martinez as not being able to finish games. We'll see if that kind of sticks with him at Kansas State. I mean, he's got Deuce Vaughn. That's a winning culture.
Yeah.
As much as people want to get frustrated about him saying they're more talented or they have a winning culture and all that, they literally went to a bowl game last year. They've got Deuce Vaughn's an All-American. They've got guys a few guys that look like they'll be, you know, day 2, day 3 type of guys, or excuse me, day 1, day 2 guys on that roster. So I don't see it as a slight at Nebraska. I'm fascinated to see if he still has those problems in crunch time, or what I'm more fascinated in is him thinking that Nebraska, or saying that Nebraska asked him to do more than anybody else. I think that's true. And I think that he wanted to get to a place where he got a chance to prove that he could be more of a quarterback rather than just a running back playing quarterback.
I think so too.
And I don't know how that experiment's going to go if they're going to try that. I think he's better off a running back playing quarterback.
I think that's why this I don't want to call it an experiment, but this transition is so fascinating for me. And I think it's okay. Like, here's the thing. In this Adrian Martinez discussion, the entire offseason is a very delicate subject. It's a very delicate topic. A lot of people get in their feels, and they get pretty intense over it, and understandably so. This is a guy that led your football program for the last 4 years, like understandably so. But with that being said, I don't think it's bad to want to see how he does.
Mm-hmm.
Like here's a fact that the Athletic points out once again. Max Olson. This isn't even a quote. In 2018, Divine Ozigbo's 1,000-yard season helped take pressure off Martinez. But from 2019 through 2021, Husker running backs averaged a combined 94 rushing yards per game, a rate that ranked 121st nationally. Just one back surpassed 500 yards in a season. They struggled enough that they needed receiver Wan'Dale Robinson to line up at running back. When he got tired of it, he transferred to Kentucky and became a second-round draft pick. Adrian did add, quote, I don't know if we ever found that consistency for 3 years to be able to run our basic run stuff and get good yardage out of it. Max Olson continues to write, when you can't lean on that, you're in trouble. No Power 5 quarterback was pressured on a higher percentage of dropbacks last season. He was pressured 45% of the time. Nebraska lost 12 more scholarship receivers to the portal during his time there, making it tougher for the passing attack to develop a steady rhythm. For much of his career, it seemed Martinez needed to be great while the Huskers offense figured everything else out. It's pretty telling. Like, once again, through all the mistakes and the poor decisions and the turnovers, there is some truth to this quote once again from Adrian Martinez. I don't think any other team asked their quarterback to do as much as I had to do in Nebraska. Now, you could argue partially he decided to do that much. He would decide to take off when he would have a receiver open in the flat or in the backfield. He would miss wide open receivers. There's part of this where he would make the wrong read. There's a lot that's his fault, but there's also a lot. And that's why I think it's okay to be fascinated and interested in Kansas State this season. You don't have to be a fan, but if there's a game on, I think a lot of Husker fans, whether they want to admit it or not, are going to be interested in watching it, because there's going to be those in there that are, sitting in the shadows waiting to go, see, Adrian does the same thing at Kansas State that he did in Nebraska. It wasn't a Nebraska problem. But there's also an opportunity or a chance, if you're Adrian Martinez, like you said, Bach, to show I'm a capable quarterback. I'm an actual decent quarterback.
Who's going to get the first big win between them? Because there is, I don't want to, I think we're going to get beyond this. Obviously, college football as a whole probably doesn't care too much, but there is a fascinating, if you've been a fan for the last 4 years, it has to be fascinating to you to see between the two, Scott Frost and Adrian Martinez pairing that just didn't work.
Yeah.
Who's going to get the first big win? Who's going to make that, who's going to make a bowl game? Who's going to make there's so much intrigue as it plays out. I can't wait. And to be honest, I am somewhat cheering for Adrian Martinez at Kansas State. I think
it's okay.
Yeah.
I think it's okay to sit here and have a mature approach to this discussion and say, I think a mature approach is the right description to say, listen, it didn't work out here, but there's a way that we kind of want him to be successful, because although he did not play well a lot of the time, you still cheered him on and he was still your quarterback.
Well, he gave a lot more blood, sweat, and tears than you guys did. Than I did. Than you.
That's a good point.
He broke his jaw. It was never a lack of effort for him. He might not be the best quarterback of all time, and I would say he's not even close, obviously. But it was to me, it was never for a lack of effort. He was always, kind of an upstanding kid in the community, and he just gave a lot and tried his best, and was, as that kind of points out, I don't think ever necessarily put in a great position at Nebraska to succeed. Again, he got in his own way, tripped over his own feet, and did all that stuff as well, which is why you needed the split. But that doesn't mean I'm not going to cheer for him and consider him a Husker. I think if he comes to Memorial Stadium in 5 years, I hope he gets a nice round of applause.
Yeah, OG Les Lancaster makes an interesting point. That article is very accurate, but at the same time, if you want to be a big-time Division I quarterback, that's the workload you can expect at times. I think especially at Nebraska, there's a lot of pressure to be a starting quarterback. I think that's pretty accurate as well. And his freshman year, let's be real, it's a lot to put on an 18-year-old kid or 18-year-old player.
But what were those stats? Like 100. So if you're in the 120s in anything, and if that's quarterback pressures and running game, that's both sides. That's pass protection and what you're getting out of the running game. That's why he's saying he was asked to do so much. He led your team in rushing the last 2 years.
So
he's not making this up.
Once again, we talked about JUCO running backs earlier in the show, Bach. In 2018, when Nebraska had Greg Bell, he ended up transferring out, who was the JUCO running back, went to San Diego State later that offseason. But in 2018, Divino Zigbo, who started the year third on the depth chart, his 1,000-yard season helped take pressure off Martinez in 2018. But from 2019 through 2021, Husker running backs averaged a combined 94 rushing yards per game, a rate that ranked 121st nationally. They bring up Wan'Dale Robinson once again, and then he was no quarterback in college football, in Power 5 football, was pressured on a higher percentage of dropbacks, 45% of the time last season. I didn't even think about this until I read the article. Nebraska lost 12 scholarship receivers to the portal during his 4 years there, making it tougher for the passing attack to develop a steady rhythm. And I think this line once again is pretty telling. For much of his career, it seemed that Martinez needed to be great while the Huskers offense figured everything else out.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is we're getting a lot, and I mentioned this a moment ago. It's a touchy subject.
Oh, yeah.
Very delicate subject. And we're getting a lot of bleep K-State, screw Adrian. But then we're also getting Adrian was a warrior. Adrian just isn't clutch. Simple as that. Wet Blanket says, if you don't cheer for Adrian Martinez, that is a you problem. That kid did everything asked of him. He was the face of this program for 4 years and had 0 missteps. He played through multiple serious injuries and never made an excuse. And so, like, there's so many conversations to be had and things like that. BJ makes a good point, and this is kind of where I'm at too, Bach, before we get to break. Deuce Vaughn will help Martinez immensely. 13-0 Kansas State versus 13-0 Nebraska semifinal to face Bama, go Big Red. And maybe that's the case. Maybe Nebraska and Kansas State will face off in the semifinals. Okay, Tiny Pig asked this. After reading those stats, do you guys think that the offense may be in trouble? Oh man. Let's get Bach back in here. He had to answer a phone call really quickly. Let's get Bach back here, and I'll read him Tiny Pig's text, and maybe we can kind of dive into this during the break. Tiny Pig asked this, Bach. After reading those stats, do you guys think that the offense might be in some trouble this year? Adrian was our offense.
Yeah. I mean, but I guess the stats don't surprise me. I mean, we watched it play out that way, right? I mean, he was always pressured, and we know he wasn't getting a whole lot of help in the running game. That's why my concern is that offensive line. If you tell me Nebraska's got a top tier or even mid tier Big Ten offensive line, then I can start to buy into a lot of this stuff and think, okay, hey, here we go. I mean, because that, when you talk about the running game and traditional running game, it's not just the running backs. That's the offensive line. The offensive line has struggled in pass protection and opening up holes for the running game for a majority of the time that under Scott Frost's tenure. And obviously, you hope that can change. I mean, that's why this whole new, all these new coaches, this new coat of paint was needed, because the previous staff, the previous attempt was coming up massively short in certain areas. And I don't want to identify, just single out one area, but the offensive line is as far away from the pipeline as I believe it has been since the pipeline days.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I want to get to a question here that's going to be a tough one to answer, but I'm all for it. Let's see. I got to find it on the text line. There's a lot of thoughts on here. It was something along the lines of, if you had to put your money on the team that would have the better record, who is it?
I'd go Kansas State. They're a bowl team last year.
Okay. Like, here's the thing, and I like Chris Kleiman a lot.
Yeah, I like
Chris Kleiman is a really good fit at Kansas State. Now, I'm not a Kansas State stan. I'm not a fan. That's not the thing. But watching them over the years, being able to watch them and how they're able to knock off Oklahoma at a decent rate, right? A couple times. But when you look at Chris Kleiman, he fits Kansas State so well as that just hard-nosed, worry about the offensive line, run the football with your running back specifically, and maybe it opens up the passing game a little bit and have a decent enough defense to compete in the Big 12. And that's why Kansas State gets 7-8 wins every year. And they are okay with that. Like, they're not trying to. I think their ceiling is probably 9 wins. They're similar to maybe I shouldn't say Iowa. They're similar to a Minnesota, where they might have an anomaly season like they did a couple years ago. But I'm interested to see, like, we know Kansas State prides itself on the up front at the line of scrimmage, and you could argue that this will be the first time in Adrian's college career that he has a strong offensive line. We don't know what kind of quarterback Adrian is with a decent offensive line.
Right. Yeah.
Above average offensive line. Maybe that's a better way to put it.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I mean, they've got some guys. Cole Beebe on that offensive line's a preseason All Big 10, All Big 12 guy up there. It's the other side of the line, but they've got the preseason Defensive Player of the Year too. I'm just saying they've got some talent on that team. Obviously in the Big 12, you're kind of looking up right now at Oklahoma State, Oklahoma, and Baylor. But that's why I'm fascinated. There's a couple other games too. They've got Missouri in the non-con. Obviously that's an old Big 8 rivalry. Now Missouri in the SEC. I think that'll be kind of interesting. But I think that with that Oklahoma game, Oklahoma State is at home. Baylor's on the road. Oklahoma's on the road. But I'm just fascinated to see if Adrian can get a big win before his career ends. Over
That's
there.
true. I mean, he hasn't beaten a top 25 team.
No.
So it's going to be interesting to see. And maybe he's going to be able to have an opportunity here at Kansas State. If, by the way, he was named a captain yesterday, which is kind of why this discussion is coming up. But if he's able to not have to do everything. Like if he just doesn't have to do everything,
yeah,
and just be a quarterback, maybe that's okay. Like I think there's a situation to where Deuce Vaughn could have a bigger role in this offense. I don't want to say than Adrian Martinez, but you need Deuce Vaughn to complement Adrian Martinez. Like that's what you're going to need to have happen. 402-464-5685, the Honda Lincoln hotline, the Starter Heyman text line, both those open for you. Corey and Lincoln says, well, we both play Oklahoma. That's a nice measuring stick.
There you
so
go.
That's true. That is absolutely true. Go ahead and give us a call now, 402-464-5685. Gus isn't here this morning, so it's going to be kind of tough to do the game show. So let's do caller number 3. If you're caller number 3, you'll win a business box of bagels, courtesy of our friends over at Bagels and Joe. So give us a call. Caller number 3 wins a business box of bagels to Bagels and Joe. Let's take our final timeout here on early break. When we come back, we'll have the spillover with Raph and AD. AD's still in Jamaica, so he'll join us from his resort there. And we will round out early break and get you ready for the drive with AD and Raph coming up in a little bit. We'll be right back. Nick Sanders and Jake Bachhoven with you on early break.
Hey, batter, wings, splatter, splatter, splatter. Catch all this season's baseball action at one of your neighborhood Lincoln locations. Get League of Their Own wings, burgers, nachos, and ringers while catching all the action. Stop into Wings and Rings located on O Street in Meridian Park and 40th and Old Cheney in Williamsburg Village. Or place your order online at wingsandrings.com. That's wingsandrings.com, Buffalo Wings and Rings.
I get it, slip it, cuff it, check it twice a day.
I get it, slip it, cuff it, check it in the morning and before dinner.
I get it, slip it, cuff it, check it, and share it with my doctor. Nearly 1 in 2 U.S. adults have high blood pressure. That's why it's important to self-monitor your blood pressure in 4 easy-to-remember steps. It starts with a monitor.
Now that I know my blood pressure numbers, I talked with my doctor. We're getting those numbers down.
Get it, slip it, cuff it, check it. Talk to doctor now and share it.
Be next to talk to your doctor about your blood pressure numbers. Get down with your blood pressure. Self-monitoring is power. Learn more at manageyourbp.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council, the American Heart Association, and the American Medical Association. In partnership with the Office of Minority Health and Health Resources and Services Administration.
Trendy or traditional, Gary Michaels Clothiers specializes in men's tailored clothing. Off the rack or custom made to measure, there is simply no better shopping experience. Offering designer furnishings, sportswear, shoes, outerwear, and accessories for a man always concerned at looking his best. With world-class tailoring and personal service, all makes Gary Michaels Clothiers Nebraska's premier store for men. Come visit us now at Village Gardens, south of 56th and Pine Lake Road in Lincoln.
Mama, what does the chicken say? Dog. Cat. Giraffe.
Giraffe, really? Giraffe.
You're not going to get it all right. Just make sure you nail the big stuff, like making sure your kids are buckled correctly in the right seat for their age and size. Get it right.
Visit NHTSA.gov.
/ the right seat.
Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Wow. Did you ever save me money on my car?
Yes, that's why our customers keep coming back.
How do you do it, friendly car dealer ?
We simply have low overhead and high trade-in values. The next line's yours.
Oh.
Ready for something better? Mullen Motors is a no-hassle, no-pressure dealership with financing available. Check out the inventory at MikeMullenMotors.com.
No taglines, just quality vehicles. Mullen Motors.
Part-time job, full-time hustle, all-time Shiro to all of us. You nurture, we listen. You teach, we thrive. You lift our spirits, but we've got to lay down the truth. It's time for you, our Shiro, to stretch for the stars. Start saving more for retirement now so you can feel prepared and live your life to the fullest. Get free tips to help boost your retirement savings now at aceyourretirement.org/Shiro.
A message brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
College football in Lincoln, America. The time has come. Start your game day off right with the A1 Automotive Ticket Tailgate pregame show. Join the ticket crew live from Tipsy Tina's in the Haymarket as they bring you all the coverage you need to get you ready for the action. It's the A1 Automotive Ticket Tailgate pregame show on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Brought to you by A1 Automotive, Mullen Motors, Wall to Wall Wine and Spirits, Bauer Underground, Ben Bleicher with Professional Realty Group, and Ritchie Brothers.
Victor deployed for the first time to Afghanistan in 2003. At 4 a.m, my phone rang. They said, "I regret to inform you that your husband was wounded in action." Victor sustained a moderate traumatic brain injury. I was doing school full-time, and I was also then caring for Victor. One of the most important elements of caregiving is taking care of yourself. I just didn't want to forget that I also had goals and that I also had a life. What I did is I challenged Victor to meet me halfway. There are almost 6 million military and veteran caregivers across the nation. We have our own journey, and we can fulfill that journey at the same time that we are helping our loved one. Visit aarp.org/caregiving for a free military veterans guide to navigate your caregiving journey and better care for your loved one and yourself. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Finally, a good reason to have a smart house. Just say, "Alexa, play 93.7 The Ticket," and we'll magically start playing. How's it work? Nobody knows. Don't ask questions. This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com. On the internet, KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket.
We're on the air.
Back
Well, party's starting early today, isn't it?
to more of Early Break with Sip and Jay, brought to you by Gaina Trucking. On 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Live. Welcome back into the, I almost said the happy hour. It is Early Break on The Ticket, 93.7 The Ticket, ticketfm.com. Nick Sanders and Jake Bachenoven taking you through the rest of your day here. We are now joined by Chris Raff and Aaron Davis, a Jamaican Aaron Davis.
Yeah, man.
How's it going, man? Having a great
Dude, look at that back. Look at those clouds back there, dog.
That's unreal. If you're not on the Starter Heyman Jewelers video stream, you need to get over there right now. AD showing us the view from his balcony in Jamaica. Montego Bay, is that right?
Yes, yes. And I brought out the old school Husker shirt today, man.
I like that. I like that a lot, actually. That is really good. All right, welcome, guys. How are we feeling? We're 4 days out. How are we feeling? Are we starting? I don't know about you guys. You saw the video, I'm sure, of Scott Frost sliding down the railing and the guys leaving the stadium in their buses with a police escort. That was the moment it set in for me in like, all right, it's go time. It's time to get juiced up. They got a game to play. We're going to have college football, most importantly, Nebraska football on Saturday.
You know, I thought it was pretty cool to see Scott just being a kid.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just being a regular person and just slide down, having a good time. It's game week, man. It's 4 days out, man. The team probably touched down, 2 a.m.
It was they touched down shortly after 5 a.m. here.
5 a.m. our time.
Yeah,
5 a.m. our time.
Their plane was supposed to leave at 8 p.m. last night. Got delayed an hour and 10 minutes. Didn't get out of here until about 9:15. And so they landed at 11:17 a.m. Ireland time, which would make it 5:17 a.m. Nebraska time. Or Jamaican time, I guess.
Or Jamaican time, yeah, man.
No, so we were just talking. Bach and I were just talking a little bit about Nebraska, kind of the game plan that is going to be needed for Nebraska to kind of get on the right track against Northwestern. I guess I want to bring you guys in on this as well, because
You talk about finding an offense that's sustainable. I mean, have you guys approached the thought of this offense might sputter out of the gate a little bit?
There's always that possibility. I think you've got to stay within your, like, if we come out and run a bubble screen on the first play of the game, I'm not going to be happy. It's like you've got
the bubble screen.
If they run that bubble screen, no, I'd come out. I would come out and be physical. We talk about it all the time. Follow through with it. Be physical. You know, I guess I would be okay the first play of the game, like a play action pass, maybe a tight end seam or something like that. Just because I'd be okay with that. But if anything, you know, just go with the counter, go with something, you know, run your. I would assume it's going to be probably Gabe Irvin or Grant probably getting the start.
Yeah,
run them. You know, be physical. Get after them right away. Let them know that you're going to be there for 60 minutes.
You know what, man? And Ralph, I hear what you're saying too, man. I guess for me, Nick, I really don't care what play they run, but run it with conviction. Whatever play you run it with conviction. If you're going to run it, you run it. And it's got to be something, we going back to Casey Thompson yesterday, with as much as conviction and that he spoke with yesterday on the podium, I want to see that same type of the language go into action on the field on Saturday. So for me, I guess I could care less what play you run, but you better run it with conviction and know what's going on, man.
And no penalties or bad snaps.
Exactly, Raph, you nailed it. My biggest thing is this: the only play I don't want to see is an offsides play, false start, something like that, man. Because, like I said, you've had a year to get this play ready to go, so don't screw it up on the first play. So just run. The key thing is run with conviction, man. First of all, emotions are going to be extremely high. Guys are going to be hyped up and ready to go. That's why I love the fact that if we win the toss, I know all this stuff is up in the air right now, but if we win the toss, I would love to defer until the second half, let the defense get out there first, get us, situated into the game, ease into the game. But like I said, I can care what was played, but just run it with conviction. Whatever play you do, run it with conviction.
I'm curious, like, we're going to later this week on Friday, probably AD, you'll be in the studio on Friday, which will be cool. But on Friday, we're going to do our final predictions on the spillover here, kind of give our thoughts on who's going to start at certain positions, kind of who's going to take the first snap and things like that. I just wonder if obviously with play calling, especially, there's so much that I'm fascinated with to just watch and kind of learn how Mark Whipple operates and how this offense comes out and whether who comes out, right? Who's the top six? Mickey Joseph talked about it multiple times of who's the most consistent in practice, and Mickey Joseph says me. Because as of a week ago, a week and a half ago, Mickey Joseph didn't have a top six laid out. And it now, does that show competition or does that show guys just not necessarily ready to go? That can be up for discussion, but it's going to be interesting to see who that top group of wide receivers is, like personnel wise, especially on the offensive side of the ball. It's going to be fascinating to kind of see where Nebraska lines up and things like that. So I'm curious to get to Friday, get to Saturday. I also hope that we'll hear about black shirts today because we found out once again. I can possibly play the clip from Scott Frost if I can find it here. Have they handed out black shirts? Here's what Scott Frost had to say. It's actually kind of a little bit of a funny story. So here's Scott Frost talking about the black shirts.
No, we haven't yet, and that was just kind of semantics and operational issues. We had to pack jerseys, so we didn't want them sweating in them, and the shipment already left. So we're going to give them out our first day in Ireland, and that has more to do with going overseas than anything else. But we'll make that announcement this week.
So they'll make that announcement this week on who guys received black shirts and things like that. We got this question off the text line and I'll pose it to you guys. How much of the playbook do you expect to see in game one? Do you hold anything back?
You do what you do to win the game. So you use as much of the playbook needed to win that game. And then going back to the black shirts thing, it's really good to see Nebraska, watching their P's and Q's with the money and only buying one black shirt. So that's good to see that they're watching that.
Exactly. AD, how much before we finish up with the spillover and move on to the drive? I mean, how much of the playbook do they hold back? Do we even worry about that in game one, or is it whatever happens and do it like Raph said, do what you need to do to win the game?
I agree with Raph. It's you do what you do to win the game. I mean, you take what the defense gives you. So regardless of how deep you have to go in that playbook, you go. But at this point, it's game time now. There's no spring game. There's no holding anything back. You do what you have to do to win the game. So you dig in the playbook as much as you need to do. You get the W, man. However you get it.
All right. Well, that will do it for the spillover. Jake Bachoven and I will be back with you guys tomorrow. But the drive with AD and Raph is coming up next, so make sure you stick around for that. AD will be joining us once again from Jamaica. Raph and I here in the studio. Want to hear from you guys the rest of the day. 402-464-5685, the Honda of Lincoln hotline, and the Starter Heyman text line. But once again, for Jake Bachoven, I'm Nick Sander. We'll talk to you tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. on The Ticket.
Gaina Trucking is hiring CDL Class A and B drivers. Gaina Trucking guarantees a 40-hour work week year-round, and their strong team culture makes it not a job, but a career. Gaina Trucking offers health, vision, and dental insurance, 401k with company match, an employee assistance program,